Dearest husband, sorry if that sounds mushy. Honestly, I had no idea how to begin this letter. I really liked your letter. I know it couldn't have been easy to put into words how you feel, but the fact that you're willing to at least try means volumes to me. I miss you so much. It's strange that I feel like I'm experiencing so many new and different things, and you're not there to share it all with me. At least you don't have to see me wear dresses all the time. As your Viscountess, would I have to? I don't mind doing it for you if I have to. It's just weird to see how everyone seems to take so much time putting on appearances. It's like people want to present an affluent image of themselves to the world instead of just being who they really are. Is that how all of England is? Or just high society? I'm not getting cold feet about this, and it's not like I could walk it back anyway. It's just different for me, but I'm sure I'll get used to it in time. Miss Minchin introduced me to some guests today, and they think that I came from some noble American family, and that's why you married me. I said we married for love, and they went on and on about how romantic that was. Do they know what really happened? Was that a safe answer? What do you say when people ask you? I wish we had gotten our stories straight before this and rehearsed what I was going to say, but at the same time, I guess that you have to trust me not to ruin your reputation, and the fact that you didn't give me a detailed list of what to say and what not to say proves how much you trust me, and I think that's probably the surest sign I have that you love me. Not that your words or your actions don't mean as much, but I'm suddenly realizing now just how much you're trusting me with your social status here, and it's, I don't know, humbling, for lack of a better word. Just know that things are going well here. I'm learning a lot of new things and being exposed to a lot of new experiences. Oh, and I said something about how it's human nature to crave new experiences and still miss the familiar, and now everyone thinks I'm super wise or something, so at least I'm making a good impression. As always, I just want to make you proud, and I realize that sounds really bad on paper, and you're probably busy with other things, and I don't want this letter to get too long, so I'll stop here. I can't wait to see you again and hug you and talk your ear off in person while you sit there and do that half-smile thing that you do when I talk endlessly about something. I always thought that I might annoy you, but you seem genuinely interested in what I have to say, even when I ramble, and I really miss that right now. Here's to hoping the wait to see you again doesn't feel too long. Your Tori. As we're walking back from church the next morning, Miss Minchin warns us to avoid any muddy puddles lest we ruin the hem of our skirts. It honestly reminds me of something I saw in a movie once, but I don't bring it up. There were no television screens at Miss Minchin's, and I doubted that they were any more receptive to technology than Iris Academy was. But I feel the sudden need to talk to someone, and so I slow down a bit to fall into step beside Ermengarde. The air smells different after it has rained, I say to her, who seems to be sniffing the air around us. It still smells like London, she replies. There are too many people and chimneys and horses. I know what you mean, I reply. We don't have horses like this in America. I mean, we do have horses, but they mostly just live in the country. I shake my head. But you're from the countryside, right? Yes, Ermengarde replies. There are a lot of flowers near the house I grew up in. I keep lavender sachets in my room so that I can smell the gardens, even when I'm away from home. My Aunt Eliza sends me the flowers, and then I stitch them together myself. That's amazing, I tell her, really meaning it. I can't sew for anything, but I have no doubt I will probably learn while I'm here. It's been forever since I've smelled lavender. It's always seemed calming to me. Oh, but isn't lavender an English flower? She asks. How did it get all the way to America? Maybe people like to trade them for flowers grown in America, I offer. I want to say more, but suddenly I see a little child dressed in rags staring at us. They were too dirty to tell whether it was a boy or a girl. The child looked like they couldn't have been older than a 5-year-old. I checked my pockets to see if I had any food on me or anything to offer, but by the time I looked back, the child was gone. Tori, please keep up, Miss Minchin scolds, and the triumphant smirk that pulls at the corners of Lavinia's lips makes me sick to my stomach. We had homeless people that I had seen in America, too. My own uncle had been homeless before he passed away, but it just didn't seem fair. Why should a poor child suffer on the streets while Lavinia got to sleep in a comfortable bed? Thinking it over, the cost of the dress that I was wearing right now could probably feed that child for a month, and I'm suddenly struck with an oppressive need to leave Miss Minchin's as I think back to Ravine Cottage and its opulence. Iris Academy did a good job of isolating us from the surrounding towns, but there were probably many homeless people living in Vermont around the school that we just never saw. What are you thinking about? Ermengarde asks, concern filling the features of her face. How unfair it all is, I say, unable to hold myself back. Here we are, decked in opulence, while poor children are just starving on the street. It's not right. Think about how much we could help people if we sold even just one of our dresses and gave the money to someone living on the streets. It would hardly affect us, but it could change their whole life, possibly. Oh, there she goes, Lavinia sneers from up ahead of me. Precious Princess Tori wants to be the savior of the broken and the downtrodden. If you really feel so badly for them, maybe you should just give up all your dresses to me and live out on the streets with them. I can't help but sulk and say nothing. True, I didn't want to live in rags on the street, scrounging for my next meal, but that didn't mean I needed all the opulence that Hieronymous' station seemed to afford him. Wasn't there a middle ground somewhere? Lavinia continues to insult and jeer at me, and although I ignore her taunts, it seems they've finally reached the ears of Miss Minchin. It seems that Tori was the only one who paid attention in church today, she says, turning on Lavinia. How shameful that the only one embracing true Christian values is the one who wasn't raised with them. I think we should all follow Tori's example. When we get back, you will all select one of your dresses to be sold, and I will donate the proceeds to a local children's shelter. Now, everyone, please thank Tori for helping us be a beacon of generosity to others. There's a grumbling of thanks, and I can tell by the look that Lavinia is giving me that she's hoping that laser beams will suddenly emerge from her eyes and reduce me to embers in a second. I don't know if Miss Minchin intended for me to become public enemy number one, but surely she had to know that giving me special treatment and praising me so much was only going to make me an outcast among my peers. Or did she think I liked being the center of attention and hoped to gain the Grabiners' good favor by going out of her way to indulge me? I didn't know, but right now I had more to worry about than Lavinia's temper or Miss Minchin's slavish nature. Seeing that child on the streets reminded me that I didn't belong here, in this dress, surrounded by fancy furnishings. I wasn't Lady Grabiner. I was Tori Brown, the unassuming slip of a girl that ran on the track team and kept to herself and liked to sit on her bed and listen to heavy metal music on the weekends. I received no letter from Hieronymous or Virginia that night, and I couldn't help but hug my pillow to my chest as I cried myself to sleep. These weren't ugly tears, no. Tears just rose from my heart to my eyes and seemed to slip down my face of their own accord. Perhaps Professor Potsdam did me a favor by expelling me, by giving me the opportunity to see what a life with Hieronymus could be like, about the kind of people that high society attracted. If they were anything like Lavinia or Miss Minchin, I didn't want to be a part of it. That night, as I fall asleep, I don't dream of Hieronymus. Instead, I dream that I sneak back to America and get a job at a coffee shop, making enough money to put myself through school while paying for a tiny studio apartment. It was a nice, quiet, simple life, one that I earned through my own merits and hard work and not through a family name. But, of course, now that Hieronymus had formally declared he would take up his father's seat, There wasn't a chance that I could have that kind of life when I was expected to be his Viscountess. Hieronymous really was older and wiser than me. When we had first gotten married my freshman year, he kept insisting that I was too young and I didn't know what I wanted. I had insisted that it was him, but that was only because I was a young girl who believed that love could conquer all. I would always love Hieronymous, but the kind of life that I was expected to live with him wasn't a life that I wanted. Maybe I was getting ahead of myself, but suddenly it seemed that my life with Hieronymous and the person who I wanted to grow into were at an impasse. When I woke up the next morning, I almost found myself walking over to my desk and writing him a letter telling him that I couldn't do this anymore. It felt oddly liberating, oddly mature to tell Hieronymous that we would always be friends and stay involved in each other's lives, but that I wasn't cut out to fulfill the duties expected of me as his wife. But I don't do it. Maybe I was just craving independence to protect myself from how much I missed him. Maybe I was just psyching myself out because I really was homesick. The only thing I could say with any real certainty was that, ever since I arrived here, I felt like I was walking around with a hole in my heart, and it wasn't until now that I realized why. I could play this role for a year, but I didn't want to play it for the rest of my life. Eventually, I was going to have to make a choice between what I wanted for myself and my marriage to Hieronymous. At least that wasn't a choice I had to make just yet.